The moment the piano started playing at the intro of this game, I already knew how this story is going to play out. Not just that, once the screen transitions over to this one, I said, oh no, I already see this coming already. Something's going to happen to the big guy. I just know it. Hey guys, it's MugenLord here, and today I want to review a particular game that I would say is very underrated, under the radar, and most people probably haven't even heard of this title. And it's in fact a JRPG, and that title is called Destiny Connect for the Nintendo Switch. And I must say that I really enjoyed every last bit of this game, and I pretty much want to just share that with you guys. And if you're interested in it, I suggest that you give it a try. Now, as far as the game is concerned in this presentation, don't let it fool you, because the presentation, as far as I'm concerned, is really adorable. It's a gorgeous looking game. I love the art style, and that's what pretty much reeled me in because of what the developers NIS of America has pretty much had produced. Now, I know it sounds funny and weird for a Japanese game developing company called NIS of America, or NIS of America, however you pronounce it, but I think they really executed something really charming here, and I believe that this should definitely be part of your collection. Now, when you look at the art style, it reminds me of something that you will find in a Disney Pixar film with a dab of anime. I love how the characters essentially emote and express themselves, especially with the little children with their big eyes, big head, and it's just so cute. And I found my daughter sitting down with me as I played the game, and she just loved every aspect of it, and I just found it that charm. And in my opinion, I feel as though that this is something that I would love to see Nintendo adopt if they was ever to reimagine or remake the Earthbound series. I think this would be a perfect fit for that. But let's dive into the story. So as far as the story is concerned, you play as a young protagonist named Sherry. She's about 10 years old, and she lives in this town called Clockney. Now, Clockney is pretty much built and centered around this big clock that sits in the middle of the town, to the point they build actually a shopping mall around it. Now, every year, around New Year's, they get together and have this festival to celebrate this hero who came into their town and saved them from this evil machine that was absorbing souls. After the hero defeated this machine, he disappeared and no one ever heard of him ever again. And since then, the town have pretty much gave their lives to this hero, and just in celebration and memory of this hero, they would have a celebration at the end of every year. Now, the story takes place in 1999, and the story is going to cross over into year 2000. Now, the thing is, Sherry, who lives with both her mother and father, her mother named Arya, and her father, who's also an inventor, always spend most of his time in the laboratory. Now, the thing that really comes to me, or speaks out to me the most, this is more so a father and daughter type of story. Now, the mother plays an essential role, which I won't get into, is because, yes, it will entail just some spoilers, and very interesting spoilers, but it's a father and daughter story, and this reminds me of so much, like, it's so adorable. Sherry just reminds me so much of my daughter, but she's a daddy girl, and she always wants to spend time with her daddy. She wants to play with her daddy, but her daddy don't have time because he's always in the laboratory working on something, working on a new invention. But the problem is, the father is acting much more unusual than he ever is. He seems more hard pressed for something, as if something is about to happen. And essentially, the father leaves and tells both his daughter Sherry and his wife Arya that he's going to be gone for 6 months, and he will return by the time New Year's comes so they can celebrate the festival together. And ever since then, Sherry had pretty much has bitterness towards her father because the father is always busy with his work. Now, when New Year's officially comes, she stumbled upon her friend, or she come across her friend Pagero. Pagero is also is the son of another friend who is also best friends with the father. So both their fathers grew up together, which essentially means these two have essentially grown up together. Well, what happens is the father never comes home. He's late than usual. She's more upset that the father promised that he will come home, which he never does. And what happens is the mother takes them out to the festival, because they wouldn't wait for the father. And essentially something weird happens. The town begins to pretty much freeze, as if everything was just stuck in time. Time just had stopped like a clock. And then out of nowhere, all these machines begin to start an uprising, which essentially Sherry gets separated from her mother. Now, I won't go into any more details, but along the journey, she's going to run across other kids. Now, I really can't describe and explain the backstory to the other kids, because the backstory to these kids is also major spoilers. But essentially, the characters will have to go through time and figure out what's the cause of this when they meet this doctor named Dr. Cheaton. Cheaton also is the inventor of this robot named Isaac. And Isaac was also someone who was also created and entwined and assisted in the creation, is also Sherry's dad. So Sherry's dad and also Dr. Cheaton was the one that created Isaac. And Isaac was giving orders by Sherry's father to pretty much essentially protect Sherry if anything was to go wrong, as if the father knew something was going to go wrong sooner or later. So now Isaac, who's also a time traveling robot with the special gear that he has, allows Sherry to go through different time periods of Clockney to be able to figure out the mystery to why present time is frozen in place. And I'll leave it at that, because it definitely gets really, really wild as far as the story is concerned. And I just couldn't believe it. A childlike game with a childlike presence as far as the graphics and the art style is concerned have really, really pulled me in, because I didn't expect the story that they were telling to be, I would say at times, kind of dark. And I really loved how they pulled this off. And I'll just leave it right there. Now, as far as Isaac is concerned, his duty is to protect Sherry. But that also plays into the gameplay, which you're now about to get into. Now, as far as the gameplay is concerned, it's a traditional turn-based JRPG. And we don't really see much of these anymore. You know, we always have the typical action RPG, which flood the market right about now. But this is a traditional take on a classic JRPG type of style that I haven't really seen in a really, really long time. And I really appreciate that they wanted to go with that. Now, before we get into the gameplay, I also want to give you some background of why they took this approach. Now, the reason is Destiny Connect was NIS's way of trying to get newer players and younger players into experiencing JRPGs. And that's the style that they wanted to go for by making it childlike, in order to bring in newcomers to actually give the genre a try. And in my opinion, I pretty much believe that they essentially accomplished that, because when you dive into the game, it's not only turn-based, but it starts off simplistic. It allows you to understand how hit points work, how skill points work, which is essentially your magic points. And it goes through all these different tutorials to teach you how battle works, how to engage with the environments, and how to also customize and upgrade and equip your characters. And I really love that. It made it really, really streamlined for those who are interested in playing and wanting to try JRPGs. This is perfect if you have a kid of your own, or even if you have a wife or a girlfriend or a grandparent, you know, that wants to actually try video games and want to try a JRPG. This is definitely the game to try, because this really breaks you into it to actually understand how these games work. So essentially, this game is turn-based, as I said before, and it's not I guess you would say an active turn-based. This is more of a turn-based. And what I mean by that is, on the left hand side of the counter, you also have the turns that's being displayed of what characters come in what order. Now the thing is, you can affect how characters will come in a particular order depending on some of the strategies that you use in the game. You can use certain characters that can speed up your turn, decrease your enemies a turn, or if you focus on attacking a particular enemy that's supposed to come up real soon, if you get rid of them, that also will give you more time to be able to line up most of your characters to be able to perform these special attacks. And I love the animations that they have brought out when it comes to the turn-based combat system. It's just charming, it's just adorable, and I love the impacts to most of the attacks in this game. Now, as far as the combat it focuses around Isaac, because Isaac, like I said, ties into the story. His job is to protect Sherry, but not only Sherry, but the kids that's also around him. So essentially, both the children can get knocked out and incapacitated, but the game isn't over unless Isaac goes out. And that's the thing. You not only have to protect the kids, but you also have to make sure that Isaac is also kept alive, because if he goes down, then it's completely game over. But when it's game over, you can actually hit retry and try the battle again. Now, are there random encounters? No, not really. It's because as you travel on the map or travel within certain particular environments, you will be able to see the enemies on the screen, and you can decide whether or not that you want to avoid the enemies. You can actually approach them from behind, which gives you the first attack. If they approach you from behind, then they get the first attack, which is called a back attack. So you really have to gauge on how you want to approach the enemies. Now, as far as the level is concerned, there's a level cap, and level cap is 50, which I reached before I even made it to the end of the game, because I did a lot of level grinding. But yes, the level cap is level 50. Your party members will also learn different skills and abilities that utilizes SP points. Now, each skill is in a particular tier of SP. You have SP 1 level, SP tier level 2, and SP tier level 3. If you use a tier level 3 skill, that pretty much wipe out all your SP. But your SP can return by using items, or also if you decide to attack without using SP, or as each time or each turn goes by, you slowly gain your SP back. So there's a lot of SP management that goes on in here. So yes, there is some depth in the combat system, so it's not as simplistic as you may think it is. You still have to think about how you want to utilize your SP. Now, Isaac, once again, now what makes Isaac interesting is the fact is that he also has different forms that you can power up by utilizing gears when you go to the shop to upgrade them. Now these gears has to be pretty much installed in Isaac. In order to earn these gears, you have to pretty much defeat enemies in combat and they drop shards, gears. Go to the shop and you utilize those gears to install different gears that boost up different stats that Isaac have, different abilities, new skills, new traits. But then in order to get the transformations, you have to pretty much play through the story, fight a particular boss, and when you beat that boss, you are given a new gear which allows him to change his form. And what's interesting about it is each form has its own perks to it. It has its own strengths and weaknesses. You have the samurai, which more so focuses on heavy damage and everything, but has pretty much crappy accuracy, but it hits really hard. Then you have the boxer, who's really swift and evasive, which you can pretty much add evasive abilities to your party members as well. And then of course you have the rescue transformation, which is really good at support abilities like healing, debuffing, adding buffs to your enemies as well. And then there's also a special gear in transformation, which I won't spoil. You can go through and discover on your own, but you would have to do some grinding in order to get it, which I unlocked. And then of course you have the gunslinger, which is the outlaw, which I really love, because there are some techniques that I found out and discovered that you can utilize for this ability in order to increase your experience points, which I thought was pretty cool. But essentially, when you go to your menu system, what I also like is you can upgrade your skills within the menu system of each character. So it's represented by the different stars. So as you increase and master the ability takes more of an impact and oomph to your enemies. And by the time I reached the end of the game, I pretty much almost maxed out all the characters' stats and abilities, which I found pretty cool. And that's essentially the combat. You'll find a lot here. It starts all simplistic, but they slowly start adding on other mechanics as you progress through the story, and you find yourself saying, man, for this to be an introductory JRPG for beginners, there's some level of depth here and also some pretty good storytelling here. But that's essentially it for the overall combat and the overall package as that's concerned. Now, as far as the music, I really love the music. There's a lot of memorable music here. They really did a good job with the composing of the music. It takes me back to the 90s to early 2000s of a lot of JRPGs in the soundtrack, and definitely, if you are interested in wanting to hear more about the music, definitely type in Destiny Connect on YouTube and its original soundtrack. And there's a lot of music here, but more so the piano and violin that plays during some of the heartwarming moments is what really pulls on the heartstrings. Definitely does, and it really gets you in your feelings by the time you reach the end of the game. But that's essentially it for this. I definitely would give this game an 8 out of 10. I really loved it. I love the presentation. I love the visuals. I love the art design, the direction, the music that they went for with this. The game is really charming, and if you're looking to get into JRPGs or just the RPG genre in general, I highly recommend and highly suggest you get this. And it's not only for the Nintendo Switch, it's also for the PlayStation 4 as well if you have a PS4. The game really runs well on the Nintendo Switch. I hardly ran into any slowdowns, and it runs really consistently throughout the entire experience, so you really don't have to worry about that. As far as simplicity is concerned, the game only really has one map. It really does. It takes place in one town, but when you go through the different time periods, the map changes depending on the time period that you in. And it was crazy how they was able to get that much out of this game just having one location essentially. And the game is only 20 hours long. The game is really fast. You can beat it in 20 hours, and it was definitely worth it. It was definitely worth every penny that I dropped on this. And I believe at the time the game was like $40, and it could be cheaper now. It's 3 years later, but this is definitely an underrated gem. I highly recommend it. And like as I said before, when I turned the game off, I was laying down in bed and just like, man, like, wow, I really love this. I really enjoyed this game, and this game story would definitely be in my mind for the next couple of days, and me pondering about it, of how charming it was. And the game is really, really sad. It's really sad, and I loved it. But that's pretty much it for this video. If you enjoyed this video and you want to give Destiny Connect a try, definitely try to look it up on Amazon, or I'm not sure if was a digital release. If it is a digital release, definitely pick the game up to see if it's something that you would like. Or if you're looking to get your own child into it, or you're looking to get your girlfriend into the game, or your wife into playing a JRPG, this is definitely a starter game to actually get into a JRPG. So if you like the video, hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to hit the bell to be notified for more JRPG news, reviews, discussion, and I'll be seeing you guys next time. This is MugenLord, sign off. I'll see you Game Fiends later. Peace out.